Podcast Network Asia.
Welcome to She Talks Peace, a podcast that highlights the role of women peacebuilders around the world in bringing lasting peace and security to communities. Eavesdrop on their communities and get to know their stories. From the Philippines to Malaysia, from Indonesia to Palestine, from Myanmar to the United States, their dreams and hopes for a world without violence and a world where every woman and girl can be whoever she wants to be. Hosted by Amina Rasul Bernardo, President of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. This is She Talks Peace.
If we see number of people criticize us, that's the same number that people support us. So that's need to be in our heart.
Hello! Salam everyone! Welcome to another episode of She Talks Peace. I'm Amina Rasul of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy, joining you from Manila, where it's getting warmer. And here's my lovely co-host.
Thank you so much, Amina. This is Ayesa Abubakar, and I'm here based at University Malaysia Sabah in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia.
By the way, Ayesa, are you okay? Your eye operation went well?
Yes, thank you for asking. I had this eye surgery 2 weeks ago, but I think it will take another 2 weeks more for me to get better. So for now, I'm just working from home.
As we are recording, it's the day after Valentine's Day. So I hope you had a great Valentine's Day, Ayesa. And I hope our listeners...
We don't celebrate it.
Oh, you don't? In Malaysia, they don't
at all. I mean, for Muslims, in general speaking, we don't celebrate it, right? So, of course, Valentine's is one of those commercialized events everywhere. But despite of that, personally, like in my family, we don't spend money for Valentine's.
Well, of course, in our area, in Muslim Mindanao, it's not really that popular. But for young people and those who went to college, it's always an excuse to send cards and chocolate. And I'm kind of glad because every Valentine's Day I get flowers. But what's really sad, Ayesa, while the Western world is celebrating this Day of Hearts, our brothers and sisters in Turkey and Syria all have heartache. I mean, it's been, more than a week now since the earthquake?
The earthquake,
And so it's like 30,000 dead already. Now they're trying to run after the construction companies who built those terrible buildings.
It's really a double blow, you can say that, especially for Syria. Okay, not only do they have this earthquake devastation, but it's been many years now since they are still experiencing this armed conflict, between the non-state armed groups in Syria and the government itself. So thankfully, they had a temporary ceasefire, and that the government, the sitting government in Syria, has allowed humanitarian aid. Those aid workers and international organizations coming into Syria, they are now there on the ground. So it's really, a horrible situation for our brothers and sisters there in Turkey and in Syria. So I think, it really is a good reminder to all of us, especially when we talk about the WPS agenda, that in fact, besides the war and conflict, all these devastation from calamities, from emergencies, earthquakes, climate change, flooding, everywhere is also very much part of the human security issue that we are experiencing.
The issue of human security is really multi-dimensional. it is not just armed conflict, but all of these other threats on human security. That's why, really, yes, I'm glad that ASEAN has approved and launched the regional plan of action on women, peace, and security. But the question is, yes, okay, we have this nice plan, this nice document. How is it going to be implemented?
I think all of us in the region in ASEAN, yeah, we are, optimistic that at least, the it has been started. We now have a regional plan of action. So yeah, people like us, and our guests today will have to push further and make sure
And
that we
she's
really help governments, fulfill this WPS agenda.
Ayesa, I have to remind that she's in the perfect position to do that because her country, Indonesia, is the chair of ASEAN this year. So please do introduce our guest, Ayesa, who's not a stranger to She Talks Peace, by the way.
Ruby is a well-known human rights activist in Indonesia, and she happens to be the director. She actually co-founded this Asian Muslim Action Network, and she's a director in Indonesia. And then she's also her organization is also one of the co-founding organization of this new network called Southeast Asian Women Peacebuilders Network. And Ruby, as you mentioned, is very familiar with the WPS agenda because she was part in the drafting of the Indonesian National Action Plan for 1325. So she will definitely tell us a lot of stories, what happened, behind the scenes in doing this work. So for Ruby, I think she has also been very busy last year, and she will tell us because she's one of the prime movers of this Kupi Indonesia, this very interesting peace building platform that she has built together with our sisters in Indonesia to bring in, the religious leaders in Indonesia to be part of this peace building work. So let us all now welcome Ruby Kholifa, our guest for today's She Talks Peace. Hi, Ruby. Assalamualaikum.
Hi,
Welcome back. Welcome
hi.
back, Ruby. You're looking extremely well.
Yes. And thank you for this invitation. I am so glad and timely. I would like to tell you a lot of stories uh, during busy time as the Indonesia as chairman in ASEAN, and that is a lot of things to do. Not only government busy, I think civil society also busy to
I
try
think
to.
you're even more busy than many government agents, Ruby.
Yeah, I'm like a matchmaker. My work is like a match.
I
All of
So
like
this.
the
what
term.
do you think, Ruby? Is Indonesia going to be a champion to really push for women, peace, and security?
I hope so. Okay. We're gonna meet our government tomorrow and the day after
Wow.
tomorrow. So I'm actually currently very timing because we're receiving a group of our sisters from Myanmar
Oh,
uh,
okay.
advocate about Myanmar crisis, and then I set up all the visit to Indonesian government, of course MOVA, and also Ministry of Women Empowerment, and the ASEAN entities that residing here, also some civil society. I think this very crucial for women human rights defenders or women peace builders, advocates to really approach Indonesia government to give them an idea on how the process that Indonesia is going to carry on have to be inclusive.
Let's talk a little bit about what you expect to happen. Since you've got these women activists from Myanmar
Mm.
meeting with you and with some of your government leaders, what
Mhm.
can Indonesia do to help resolve the situation in Myanmar now that Indonesia is chair?
Even it is slow, I think our government is step by step really releasing or approving implementing the five consensus for Myanmar. At least we can see right now the government is preparing for special envoy for Myanmar, and we don't know yet who actually going to be appointed, but at least we know that there is something that going on inside the government body. Of course, my expectation is this year. I know this very short. The chairmanship in ASEAN only 1 year. What you can do for 1 year, while the crisis is so severe in Myanmar. But at least if Indonesia can one started engaging multi actors and open the process inclusively for any actors, including civil society and the women group, the youth group, into the conversation, layers of conversation. And also, if Indonesia can finalize the roadmap for responding Myanmar crisis, that actually Indonesia will be able to monitor. I don't expect that the crisis ending right away this year, but at least with two agenda, we can civil society can monitor better in the future.
Ruby, it's good that you mention your ideas, of bringing in more actors, to help out Myanmar, because we've experienced that for the past 2 years that, when Brunei, the first envoy that was sent to Myanmar was somebody from Brunei, right? So this male official, and then UN also sent, another female official this time. So there is this habit of sending one person to be an envoy. So your idea precisely of why not, instead of one person as an envoy, send a team of
Yeah,
envoys where you have women representation, youth representation, even private sector, bring in, all these different sectors, and then form a team to visit Myanmar. I think that is something that
This is
yeah,
a good
we can,
idea.
or you can suggest to the Indonesian
Yeah,
government.
exactly. I definitely will propose this during meeting with MOVA. We hope Indonesia can develop a roadmap for ASEAN in responding Myanmar crisis. Of course, I'm really expecting that civil society need to be engaged, and also a lot of multi stakeholders inside Myanmar in particular, because the stakeholders are very diverse.
so we're going to have a roadmap that's going to be pushed by Indonesian civil
Hope,
society.
yeah, we
More
we have to do.
more power to you on that, Ruby.
Yeah,
And this network that you
yeah,
organized, Ruby, the Southeast
yeah.
Asian Women Peacebuilders Network, but and of which Ayesa and I are members.
Yes,
How
yes, yes.
can this
Let's do.
network help put
Okay.
together and push for
Mm.
this roadmap on how ASEAN can deal with the Myanmar situation?
They said uh, that international community doesn't really has a significant response for Myanmar. I, I I have limited, but I feel that what they, because the situation inside the Myanmar is so restricted. If you read from the newspaper, for example, even humanitarian aid and agencies is not open, is really under control of junta. Another that interesting from Myanmar is there is no single leadership, so therefore difficult for junta actually to catch one single leader, because the leader is spreading, the leader share a power, and then and therefore they always win when they have a battleground. But
Right.
probably junta, because they got a lot of support from Russia and China
Yeah.
and some
Yep. Yep.
country, so they did like they attack with air airstrike, And
Really?
that is, yes, yes,
We
it's
don't hear
really
too
crazy.
much about that, right, Ayesa?
Yeah,
This kinds of military attacks with assistance from the outside. Wow.
from time to time we do read, especially newspapers based in Thailand. They do monitor the armed confrontations there. So that is why when there are airstrikes, that is when a lot of the people from Myanmar suddenly have to flee, across the borders in
Uh,
Thailand. To some extent, there are really also pros and cons with what you call this, with the response of the international community to restrict the
mhm.
junta.
Yeah,
So in a way, the junta, if you look at it in terms of the legitimacy and the power dynamics, they have no choice but, of course, to flex their muscles and their connections with Russia and China. So they are
mhm,
in that kind of corner in that
mhm,
situation. So
mhm.
Ruby is right that if there are other possibilities, that you can expand all these discussions and even talks with the junta in other, creating new tables of dialogue, with the
Exactly.
junta.
And particularly as the showing solidarity is so much
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
this time. You
Right.
may see that many women advocate. Of course, they are human being. They may have in the
Mhm.
situation that they're so tired, is so helpless, and all of that. But when we showing our solidarity, so it gives like a new energy for them to continue their struggle. So I'm going to host the solidarity night
Mhm.
tomorrow. So I
Oh, good
invite
luck.
civil society based in Jakarta and international and also national, including some selected media that we trust. I think we, as part of the global community, I think we really need to find a way. What is I mean, how to amplify the voices in Myanmar, and even more discussion and research relating how we could see the condition conducive for dialogue in the future, because this is very
Absolutely.
important, in particularly when we see the power of the women. There are so
Right.
many women you can see here tremendously. I cannot believe that they are survive and they have so
Yeah.
many strategies and approach.
I'm really hoping with the
Yes,
network that you can amplify the voices of these women. People forget because now everybody's so concerned first with Ukraine and now
yes,
Turkey and Syria. So the voices of the women in Myanmar, in southern Thailand, are sort of being covered. It's covered up. That's why when I looked at my LinkedIn posts and I see Yuyun with her photo every week, a new photo of her banging her pot, her
Amina
sister.
and Ruby, it's also good to remind ourselves that we also have sisters, who are part of the government in Myanmar, whether they like it or not. So it's also good, to reach out, because just like all women, whether they are in the government position or in the military, they we are all, after all, the same women, the same experiences. So I'm sure they are also waiting, for other people, especially from civil society, to reach out to them. Why don't we go back to discussing, the big work that you've done last year with Kupi,
Oh
Indonesia?
yeah,
We are
oh,
I
so
okay.
miss
interested
I
in what
miss
happened
that.
because
I really miss that,
Yeah,
Ruby.
that.
For this
I
year's
actually
conference, I swear I will attend.
I actually saw some social media posts, from friends from Singapore when they attended. So, and then I realized, oh, how I wish I also went there and attended that Kopi, because it's really a lot of fun, and I think you really made a good message, together with the ulama in Indonesia, how they are also very supportive in peace building and in making women in Indonesia and everywhere to be partners in peace building. So tell us, Ruby, about Kupi.
Yeah, I think this is one of the success that we would like to have a showcase during Indonesia chairmanship in ASEAN. The second Congress that we hosted on November last year, attended by 1,600 women ulama coming from different places. We were able to invite 32 countries joining with this conference. Of course, we selected some countries that mostly relevant, and particularly they have difficulty in dealing or even collaborate with religious leaders or ulama or other, the Islamic institution. So the Congress, the second Congress is more specific, in more special because of several things. One, I think, in the more foreigners joining because we had international conference. Not only we showing a progress of Indonesia, the democratic space that given ulama, actually the women ulama also could promote or produce and promote the women friendly interpretation. This is also the time that Kupi share the whole picture of methodology that they are ready to assist international community. They are who are interested to use or copy or modify the movement in Kupi. Other
By the
special
way,
on that is,
Ruby, could you just
yes,
step back and tell our
yes.
listeners what is Kupi?
Kupi stands for Indonesia Women Ulama Congress. In short, we call it Kupi. The first Congress was 2017. I think the history of why we need Kupi was from the long program and long engagement with pesantren, Islamic boarding school, Islamic institution, and also long engagement with a lot of religious leaders. Finally, we were able to sit together and to consolidate everybody who are actually different actors. So, including feminist group, women group, that they are need the women friendly interpretation. So when we come together, so there is
Ruby,
strong
what do you mean? What do you mean by women friendly interpretation?
women
Is this
friendly
the interpretation of
Yes,
Quran?
could be promote women experience and knowledge as the baseline of religious interpretation. This is very strong. Why? Because in many cases, you may not see that religious leaders using women experience and knowledge. They are just like reading the text from the text, the other text, without really listening the victim or survivor of sexual gender-based violence. But could be approach to pick up and using the women voices and linking to the existing uh, Islamic texts, and also, but at the same time, also using framework of human rights, and that actually the formula that they are cooking to release a fatwa. So it's very comprehensive analysis, not only rely on Islamic text but also other instrument. So the women friendly we just short in call like that, meaning that the interpretation that promote women rights, that actually very much protect the women victim and survivor of sexual gender based violence. So second Congress is done everything. I mean, they have a book, they have a strategy how to do it. So they call up all communities and they share, including to international. So Kupi can work closely right now with international communities. For you, for example, in Malaysia or in the Philippines, we are very ready to have a collaboration and read and learning about the methodology and how QPS movement working hand in hand, different actors. Not easy, but like actors like us, we facilitate a lot could be activities, but other friends who are not considered as religious leader but they are working in the education and all, so people just happy to support kupi because this actually giving really breakthrough
Yeah.
for Indonesia and also international, right?
Mhm.
There is a group of women ulama and they are confident and they are ready with strong methodology and
Right.
they release fatwa and the fatwa
Yeah.
can be explained
Yeah.
easily to
And
ordinary people.
can be supported by the Indonesian Islamic
Yes,
Council. By the way,
yes,
Ruby, on
and government.
more urgent situation, last
Mm-mm.
December, the Indonesian Parliament criminalized same-sex marriage, right? And there
Uh,
was a lot of criticism. There were protests about that. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, so in our faith, it is a sin,
Mm-mm,
right?
mm-mm,
But
mm-mm.
is it a crime that you can be jailed for? Did you discuss this during
Yeah,
the conference? What is the position that has been taken by the women ulama and the those who participated in the Kupi conference?
during the Congress, people focus on several issues on, for example, protecting women life from the danger of cutting female genitalia, forced marriage, and the other is abortion, pregnancy. They don't use the term abortion. The fatwa say that protection for
Yeah,
women from the danger of
right,
pregnancy
right.
due to rape, so
Mm-hmm,
something like that. So
mm-hmm.
it's and from violent extremism and also environmental destruction. So the issue that Amina raised did not discuss in the Congress. But I think after the Congress, we had discussion, but Kupi did not release official statement over that. What they do is actually they continuing lobby to the parliament and also to other stakeholders, and particularly providing more inclusive views in how to read the Islamic text, or they're providing more more moderate views in responding the that kind of cases. So it's a lot of debate going on, and we are not happy, of course, about that. On the one side, we feel like Indonesia having huge of democratic space, and ulama
Right,
can speak, right. But on the other
right.
hand, that we're still dealing with this kind of things. My God, we never finish our
It's never
problem.
going to end. It's never going to end, Ruby. That's why Kupi has
But
got to expand
yeah,
and come
but
to
we don't
Malaysia
stop.
and the Philippines.
We continuing a dialogue with the parliament and other stakeholders. Is it not easy since after reformasi, you know that the conservatism within parliament is also very high, and particularly because this group is very clever to use democratic instrument to win the election, and they got a seat in the parliament.
I was just wondering what is possible for getting these progressive ulama and women Islamic scholars together from Indonesia and Malaysia and talk about these issues seriously. Then it can be part of the regional plan of action for women, peace, and security.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
possible.
It's going to lobby
yeah,
for.
Except that,
true.
yeah, in the regional plan of action, that is not that is not an area that has been taken up, right? Yeah, but anyhow,
It
just
should,
like
But
what
it should
Ruby,
be, right? It should be
huh?
because it is the curtailing of the democratic space
Yes,
for women to
yes,
operate in.
yes.
Ruby, I'd like to ask you on a personal note. I mean, for sure, there are many. You mentioned already that it's very,
Mm,
the environment in Indonesia is still, there are still, a big part of the society that's very conservative. And for sure, there are a lot of criticisms,
mm-mm,
against women, Muslim women who are involved in Kupi,
mm-mm.
and for you yourself. So, how do you deal with that?
If we see number of people criticize us, that the same number that people support us. So that's need to be in our heart. So that actually bring us to more engaging the people that actually supporting us. They are somehow not really consolidated. So they are still working isolated, and this is our homework: how to approach them, bring them together, like what we did under Kupi. It's like 275 organization giving commitment to support Kupi that's coming from different backgrounds, not only Islamic institution, yeah, but a lot of economic, culture, education, and of course, peace and development are there. So I think consolidating the progressive voices matter for me to see how big we are. And also another strategy is we actually, in particularly supporting young people. We grow a lot of network among young people because we want young people to have more spaces. Not only that, also providing safe space for intergenerational dialogue. So then our movement will be continuing. If we don't engage young people, or if we let young people working alone, I don't think so. The knowledge transfer will be there.
Before we end, Ruby, um, perhaps you have a message to our listeners. Maybe there's some members of your government who are listening. What is your message to our listeners with regards to women and how valuable women are in securing peace and stability for everyone?
It's very big, but I think my message is very simple, and particularly for Indonesia as a chair of ASEAN. Please engage all multi-stakeholders. In particularly, Indonesian government should engage the women group, the women peace builders, the women human rights defenders, because they are really the first responder in our society. Believe me, if you actually engage all this women's group, they will show you the correct path because they really understand the detail inside the community, and particularly if we talk about the women agenda, and particularly not only women, all the marginalized group, because women always have the strong feeling with marginalized groups, and therefore they are always been trusted by so many groups. So when government engage women, believe me, they will open a lot of doors to engage the marginalized groups.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Ruby, for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much.
and explaining about the work that you've been doing with Kupi. Kupi is really fascinating. And you and I, we've talked for, 6 years now about coming to Mindanao. Maybe this year it's going to happen. So thanks so
Really.
much for joining us from Indonesia, Ruby. And we hope to see you face to face very soon. How about you, Ayesa? Want to go to Bali or Jakarta and visit Ruby?
Bali.
Where are you now, Ruby? Which
I'm in
place in Indonesia? Oh,
I'm in Jakarta.
Jakarta. Okay, so we go to Jakarta.
We go to Jakarta. So, dear listeners, this has been a wonderful conversation with Ruby Kholifa, the leader of AMAN, the Asian Muslim Action Network. She's also the fearless leader of the Southeast Asian Women Peace Builders Network. Thank you so much for joining us, Ruby. And this is Amina Rasul of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. Thanking all of you for listening and hope you tune in again next week. Ayesa, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much to our sister Ruby Kholifa from Indonesia and Amina in Manila. So this is Ayesa here in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. Until next time, we see you again in She Talks Peace. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
She Talks Peace is brought to you in partnership with Podcast Network Asia and Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast. For more information, check out their website at podcastnetwork.asia and podmetrics.co.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.